Zagan was a lonely but rich wizard who never touched a woman in his life, but this changes when he buys a gorgeous elf slave to taste her cheeks. However, after realizing she's a nice baddie that cares for him, he catches feelings and ends up falling in love with her. Before he met her, on one ordinary afternoon, a red-headed girl is suddenly attacked by a rogue wizard. The girl slaps the wizard, but it rips off the wizard's face, which reveals that he's wearing her friend's face. But then, Zagan walks in, grabs the wizard's head, and says that he was about to take his nap when this nonsense happened. So he crushes the head like a lemon. But the blood splashes on the girl and instantly passes out. He uses magic to rewind the damage, straightening her clothes and restoring the wizard's face. He decides to return her to the church, but his plan hits a snag, and he realizes someone has intercepted his magic. His weird wizard friend Barbatos shows up, and he assumes Zagan wants to use the girl for a magic sacrifice. Zagan ignores the accusation and still sends the girl back to the church before heading back to his castle. But then Barbatos brings up that Marcosius, one of the archdemons, is dead, which shocks Zagan. But now that he has died, there will be an auction of his treasures and legacy. The two head to the city where the secret auction is held. When they arrive at the auction hall, it's packed with people and magical creatures. Then the main attraction arrives at the auction. The host presents one of Marcosius's greatest treasures, an elf from the Holy Land of Norden, which is known to be closer to the gods and nature than humans, possessing immense power. But not just any elf, a rare silver-haired one. As a man who has barely seen a woman or action in his life, Zagan instantly bids 1,000,000 gold for her. The entire hall gasps in disbelief. Zagan, struck by love at first sight, simply wants to save her. Barbatos, half joking, asks what kind of experiment Zagan plans to do on the elf. Zagan only gives a faint, mysterious smile, then walks to the podium to claim his prize. Deep inside, though, he feels like a lovesick fool, but standing before the elf, he possesses 0 riz in his pathetic soul. Then he notices the chain around her neck, and the host explains that it seals her powers, and if it's unlocked, she'll escape. But he also adds that none of the wizards there know how to open it. With his awkward grin, Zagan says he can't wait to hear her lovely voice when he gets started. And the crowd misinterprets his words, assuming he intends to pump and dump the poor elf, while Zagan didn't realize that his words came out wrong. Later, back in his castle, Zagan sits in silence with the elf kneeling before him. He's unsure how to talk to her, but after a long, heavy pause, she speaks first, asking how he's going to end her life. That shocks Zagan, and he realizes that she genuinely believes she's about to die in his hands. To ease her fear, he introduces himself as a wizard who has no interest in torturing anyone. The elf then tells him her name, Nephilia, but says he can call her Nephi. He thinks it's a cute name, though she disagrees, calling herself a cursed child. Yet she insists she's still pure, and even starts lifting her dress to prove it. Zagan instantly stops her, assuring her once again that he has no intention of using her for sacrifice. Nephi then asks why he bought her at all. Zagan falls silent. He doesn't want to reveal the real embarrassingly romantic reason, so he brushes it off, muttering that she doesn't need to know. Instead, he tells her it's time to pick her room. Nephi repeats that she's fine sleeping anywhere, as long as she doesn't have to die as a sacrifice. Her words take him aback, and he finally understands that Nephi must have lived as a slave, sold since childhood, and she doesn't even know what comfort feels like, which reminds him of himself once, a street rat surviving in the alleys. In the end, Zagan tells her he bought her because he needed her, and that means she must live for him, and no more talk of her dying. When choosing her bedroom, Zagan picks the tower for its beautiful view. As they climb the stairs, Nephi almost slips, but he catches her just in time, like it's a Korean drama. From then on, he holds her hand as they ascend together while trying not to fold to how soft her hand is. When they reach the top, Zagan opens the door and realizes that the tower room used to be a torture chamber. Nephi is fully ready to get her head chopped off, but Zagan quickly destroys everything inside and then lets her in. While Zagan thinks that the room is horrible to live in, Nephi accepts it as her room when she sees that she can spot the moon from the balcony, saying that she also wants the room because he chose it for her. The very next morning, because the room was still empty, Zagan let Nephi sleep near the throne beside him the night before. But he couldn't sleep at all, as Nephi was too cute, and he struggled to stay calm when a beautiful elf he actually liked was sleeping right beside him. Zagan tries desperately to suppress his desire, but fails to relax, so he gets up and goes to find breakfast to distract himself. When Nephi wakes up, Zagan returns with some beef jerky for them to eat. Nephi is surprised to see him eating the same thing as her, but for Zagan, it's just the normal food he's always eaten since he was a broke little bum. Wanting to be a loyal servant, Nephi insists she will cook for him instead. Hearing that, it's a massive dub for the love-struck sorcerer to get to taste the cooking of the girl he loves, so he accepts her offer without hesitation. Then they head to the market to get ingredients, and Zagan stops a merchant wagon to take them there, but the furry merchant offers to take them for 3 bronze coins, and that's when Zagan remembers that he's completely broke after his entire fortune was spent to buy Nephi. To save his dignity, he decides to walk instead, saying that walking is healthy. He thinks about robbing the merchant, but when he imagines how Nephi would react, he thinks otherwise. But not long after, local bandits ambush the merchant wagon. Zagan wants to just ignore it initially, but when he notices Nephi trembling, he assumes that she had a bad experience with bandits, so he calmly shows her that she has nothing to fear when he's around. He blitzes the bandits with lightning, and when one comes to attack him, Zagan catches his axe, destroys it, and flicks the dude. The bandits summon their leader, who is a fellow wizard, and he's surprised to see a wizard like Zagan being good people. The leader forms a blazing ring of fire through his magic circle, thinking it's enough for him to win, but Zagan simply steals it and turns it against him, overwhelming the entire gang. The bandits flee in terror, and the merchants, astonished, thank him profusely, never expecting a wizard could be this kind. The cat merchant rewards him with a bag of silver coins and offers him a guard job until they reach the city. Zagan is stunned by how much they pay just for kicking and punching bandits, but even more surprised to feel genuine appreciation for the first time. The merchants even compliment Nephi, saying she's lucky to have such a kind master. In the end, they travel together with the merchant. On the way, Nephi asks why he helps these people, and Zagan thinks this might be a good chance to impress her with kind words, but instead, he coldly says that these chumps need to know their place. But he quickly regrets saying that, as it makes him sound evil. When they finally reach the city, Zagan wonders what to buy for Neffy. Seeing how awkward she looks in her worn gown, he decides to get her a new dress. He takes her to a tailor's workshop owned by a winged woman named Manuela. The moment Zagan walks in, she immediately recognizes him as a wizard, and when her eyes fall on the lock around Neffy's neck, she instantly understands the situation. She takes Neffy to the changing room, and thinking that she's Zagan's toy, Neffy steps out in a succubus outfit, shocking Zagan, who almost explodes right there to her plots. He quickly demands that Manuela change it, and Manuela pouts, saying it looks great on Neffy, but seeing how red Neffy's face is, Zagan insists on something proper. In the end, Manuela dresses Neffy in a maid's outfit, complete with boots enchanted to heal her feet if she ever grows tired. When the deal is done, Manuela stops Neffy before she leaves and tells her softly that she's lucky to have such a caring master, which touches Neffy's feelings. Their next stop is the blacksmith, and Zagan asks if the man can cut the lock from Neffy's neck, telling him she doesn't need it anymore. But the blacksmith shakes his head, as the collar is protected by powerful magic, and if it's cut incorrectly, it could trigger a trap that might take her head clean off. The blacksmith suggests using the real key, but Zagan knows that the only one who holds the key is her previous owner, Marchosius. Even so, Zagan pays for the visit, thanking him for the information, but the blacksmith stops him. He reminds Zagan that he once saved him during an attack, and he's ashamed for never thanking him back then. Now, he wants to apologize. Zagan honestly doesn't remember the event, but the blacksmith smiles and tells him to drop by anytime he needs help. Stepping out of the shop, Zagan is stunned by how friendly the townspeople suddenly seem, while the blacksmith is amazed by how different Zagan is before compared to now, just because of Neffy being with him. As the day winds down, Zagan knows it's cruel to make Neffy cook after a long day, so he takes Neffy to a pub and buys her a proper dinner.
Nice.
She asks if he's not scared of her running away if he takes off her collar, and while Zagan is a bit worried, he still wants to take it off her. Neffy then looks at her food and is deeply moved. She says this is her first real meal, and reflecting on his own past, Zagan finally realizes why he was drawn to her, and that is that they share the same kind of pain growing up. He encourages her to eat, but when she does, she struggles to use a fork, which flusters her, so she uses a spoon to eat a cherry tomato for the first time. She can't believe how tasty it is, but then, Zagan also fails to use a fork, and to his surprise, Neffy offers to feed him a tomato. Zagan starts folding, realizing it's the same spoon she just used, and blushes when he eats it. Neffy then says that since Zagan never gave her an order, she wants to do things that will help him, even when not asked, which Zagan accepts. Zagan then returns the favor, feeding her, which makes them both blush, but when they realize that other customers are praising them as a cute couple, they both quickly leave the place. Meanwhile, the red-headed girl from before is revealed to be a captain of the Holy Templar, Chastille. She's still haunted by what happened, unable to comprehend why a wizard like Zagan saved her life. When she recalls Zagan's sharp eyes, she senses the loneliness hidden within them. As she's lost in thought, the high priest arrives. He tells her not to worry, but says that her mission isn't over. After investigating the slain wizard's lair, he claims that Zagan is the one behind all the kidnappings. Chastille immediately denies it, saying Zagan isn't the culprit, but the high priest doesn't care. To him, even if Zagan isn't directly responsible, he's still a wizard, which is an enemy of the church. Determined to prove Zagan's innocence, Chastille takes on the mission herself. The following morning, Zagan dreams of a fragment of his past. When he was younger and about to be slain by a great wizard, he somehow managed to steal that man's magic. His dream ends abruptly when Neffy wakes him up, and for the first time he can greet her good morning, which is an achievement for him. Then, when he gets to the dining room, the place is spotless. Neffy has cleaned everything and even baked bread for his breakfast, and Zagan is genuinely astonished by the miracle that has taken place inside his own home. Neffy's long ears twitch, and he realizes it's a sign of her happiness. Then, seeing only one plate and one chair on the table, Zagan asks if she's already eaten. Neffy replies that she only cooks for him. Not wanting her to starve herself, Zagan insists that she eat with him, by sitting on his lap like he's Santa Claus. Neffy freezes in surprise, and Zagan's face steams red the moment he realizes what he just offered her. But Neffy shyly accepts and sits on his lap, and the two end up sharing their meal together, feeding each other food, which they both enjoy. Days later, Zagan is studying in the library when Neffy approaches him and asks about magic circles and runes. She admits she can't use any spells, and Zagan wonders how that's possible, considering that she is someone with such insane energy. You would think she has the nine-tailed fox inside her, so he decides to teach her everything he knows. He explains that multiple circles can be layered to strengthen a spell, but it's a dangerous technique, and if one cannot control their mana perfectly, the combination can explode. But if mastered, it grants unimaginable strength, and Zagan can already tell that Neffy has true potential as a magic user. Neffy then asks why he seeks great power as a wizard, and the question catches him off guard, as he's never really thought about it before. After a pause, he simply says that he wants to survive. He recalls his past of how he once lived on the streets, stealing scraps just to stay alive, until one day a wizard kidnapped the street children and used them for experiments. Zagan only survived because he stole that wizard's magic, and from that moment on, he learned to grow strong enough never to be powerless again. Neffy listens quietly, then says she doesn't wish to be strong at all. Zagan is about to give a heartfelt speech in response when he suddenly senses someone entering his territory, Chastille and her group. They've come to investigate whether Zagan is responsible for the recent kidnappings. Chastille draws her holy sword and manages to crack Zagan's magical barrier. When Zagan confronts them, he recognizes her face as the same red-headed girl he once saved, but this time he doesn't plan to let her go easily. He warns them to turn back, but they refuse, forcing him to fight. The first Templar gets a punch to the gut and crashes into another. The blonde one lunges next, but Zagan slices through his sword with ease, flicks his head aside, and stomps him down. He declares that he won't end them, wanting them to spread word of his power instead. Chastille shouts that he's lying, knowing that he only says that to spare Neffy from seeing corpses. Enraged, Chastille attacks him at full strength, but Zagan refuses to harm her. Furious, she accuses him of disgracing his dignity by using magic. Zagan fires back, asking how she can condemn magic while using her holy holy power to attack those weaker than her. As for some people, like himself, magic is the only way to survive. For a brief moment, his words strike her, but she quickly shakes them off and continues her assault. Zagan's gloves tear apart as he catches her holy sword with both hands. Cornered against a tree, he braces himself when she swings, cutting straight through the trunk. At that close distance, Chastille whispers for him to play dead. She explains that the church plans to hunt him down, and if he doesn't die here, a far stronger Templar will come to hunt him. Zagan is stunned. Chastille's eyes soften as she tells him she has seen mercy in his gaze and has never forgotten the man who once saved her life. He knows that protecting a magic user is a grave sin for a Templar like her, yet her sincerity makes him genuinely consider her offer. Still, he worries about Nephi and how they would react to her. At that very moment, Nephi steps out of the castle. One of the Templars mistakes her for a threat and hurls a spear. Zagan instantly pushes her aside, but the spear pierces his hand, causing him to bleed heavily. In that moment, Nephi's emotions explode, and she unleashes her magic, commanding the forest itself to attack the Templar, strangling him like she's poison ivy. Zagan rushes to her and holds her tight until she regains control. When the chaos settles, Chastille and her group retreat. Later, Nephi tends to Zagan's wounded hand. When he asks about her power, Nephi hesitates, afraid he'll fear her. She confesses that her power is enchantment. Zagan is stunned, as he always believed enchantment was a myth. Unlike regular magic, which relies on logic and knowledge, enchantment bends nature itself through sheer will. Nephi explains that her people saw her gift as a curse. When her village was attacked, they sold her to save themselves. Yet even in captivity, the city still hunted her down. At that time, she felt oddly relieved, thinking death was her punishment for what she'd done wrong. But later, she realized how monstrous that thought was, and buried her pain deep inside. She apologizes for not being kind or pure enough, but Zagan only laughs, saying that if he had been treated that way, he would have destroyed the whole town. He tells her not to feel guilty, as those people were already evil, and he says that if she possesses such power, she should use it, not hide it. Then he remembers a girl from his past, who once called him a bad person for being strong. He had called her weak, saying weakness made her prey, but she grew furious and told him that even if she's weak, she still deserves to live, and that being strong doesn't give anyone the right to do whatever they want. Still, he believes kindness and mercy can easily lead to recklessness, so he chose strength instead. Now, kneeling before Nephi, Zagan gently caresses her cheek and tells her to stop hiding her true self. And at that moment, Nephi finally breaks down, crying softly in his arms. After she stops crying, Nephi apologizes for showing her weak side, but Zagan tells her that this is the first time he's ever heard her speak so much. Embarrassed, she blushes and tries to change the subject by asking about his hands. Zagan realizes he doesn't feel any pain, and when he unwraps the bandage, his hand is already healed. He realizes that it's because he touched her cheek, and her power must have healed him, so he thanks her for it. Later that same night, Nephi peeks out from behind a pillar and softly asks if Zagan wants to sleep with her. The question completely catches him off guard. With her flushed face and trembling voice, Zagan's mind runs wild, imagining something far more freaky. But his fantasy is shattered when Nephi clarifies that she simply wants to share her bed, since Zagan always sleeps on the throne chair. Realizing how pure she truly is, Zagan laughs awkwardly and says he's fine sleeping there, as it's his trophy after all. Already expecting that answer, Nephi sits down in front of him and offers her lap as a pillow instead. Zagan can't say no to that juicy offer. Gathering his composure, he lies down, resting his head on her smoother-than-butter thighs. When he looks up, his face meets a view so beautiful it almost makes his heart stop and his gun saluting. In the calm silence, Zagan asks why she's doing this. Nephi smiles gently and says she wants to thank him for letting her live with him, and for allowing her to use her power freely. Zagan reaches up, touches her face again, and asks if she wants to explore her enchantment abilities further. He has seen how even with the cursed lock she still holds great power, and if she learns to control it, she can protect herself. Nephi hesitates, doubting herself, and she wonders if she can truly do it, or if she can be useful to him. Zagan reassures her with quiet confidence, saying she can become stronger than him, and she has nothing to fear. Encouraged by his words, Nephi finally agrees to train her power so she can help him. Zagan falls silent, as he never imagined Nephi would one day become his student. But as the quiet stretches on, Nephi brings up his old story of the girl who once called him a bad guy. She says that even though he hides it, she knows it must have hurt. Then she gently hugs his head and promises never to forget how kind he is. At that moment, Zagan sheds a tear in secret, wishing he could feel this comforting warmth forever. The next day, Barbados pops up for a visit, asking about the Templars' attack and about Chastille, who wielded a holy sword. Zagan admits she was strong, which makes Barbados laugh. But when he notices Nephi's face, he leaps from his seat in shock, asking why she's still alive. Zagan tells him that he isn't like him, and he introduces Nephi to Barbados as his student now, since she holds immense energy and may be capable of mastering powerful spells. Barbados hadn't considered that and praises the idea, calling Nephi a living weapon. Then he asks if she was the reason the Templars fled, and Zagan casually admits it. Barbados presses further, asking if Zagan intends to claim the empty throne. Zagan admits that the thought crossed his mind, just so no one can ever touch Nephi. Yet he knows that with only 10 years of experience, he could easily lose to those who've lived 100 years as wizards or witches. But still, as long as he's alive, he'll keep striving for it. Watching Zagan's affection toward Nephi, Barbados sighs, loses interest, and decides to leave. Zagan wonders what's gotten into him, while Nephi remarks that Barbados seems like a good friend to him. The word friend lingers in Zagan's mind, as he's never really thought about having one. Shaking the thought away, he decides it's time to begin Nephi's training. From that day forward, Nephi studies magic in between her chores, slowly showing more emotion whenever Zagan praises her cooking. When they practice enchantment, She struggles to control her power, but her magic circles grow more refined each day. Then, one morning, a formal invitation arrives from the 12 Dark Lords, summoning Zagan to the Great Hall. On the promised day, Zagan travels to the secret castle hidden beneath the city, where the 12 Dark Lords await. When he steps into the Grand Hall, murmurs fill the air. The others are shocked that the candidate for the empty throne is so young. Zagan glares and tells them to speak their purpose or he'll walk out. One of the lords laughs at his pride, then steps forward, declaring that Zagan is now chosen as the 13th Dark Lord. He presents the mark of the Dark Lord, explaining that to take the throne, Zagan must accept it as the others have. Zagan feels the overwhelming surge of power radiating from the mark, an energy identical to what he senses in each of them. He asks why they chose him when others are far stronger. Another lord answers that although Zagan possesses immense power, his true gift is survival. The first wizard he ever ended, Andras the Cursed, was no weakling, yet Zagan defeated him at such a young age. They add that his ability to memorize magic circles and master them instantly makes his magic both terrifying and unique. Another lord adds that Zagan's strength deserves both awe and fear, as when Zagan steals another's power, no one can stop him. They continue to glaze Zagan, saying that he can always decide to end them and no one can escape. He could make every lord kneel before him like a true tyrant, and that is why he's chosen as the 13th Dark Lord. Zagan listens quietly, wondering if he could steal all their power if he wished. A woman among them warns that he could, but the gain would be far less than the loss, and that reminder instantly brings Nephi to his mind. Another lord speaks, saying that the wrath of the Dark Lords is not limited to destruction, and they could erase everything he holds dear, even his very existence. He adds that there is no peace in this path, and to be a Dark Lord is to be followed only by darkness. Zagan chuckles at their words. For him, he's already lived through hell long before becoming a wizard, knowing that in this world there are only two choices: live as the devil or die. Zagan chooses to live, and accepts his role as the 13th Dark Lord, but only under one condition. Later, after the ceremony, Zagan returns to his castle. Nephi is busy in the kitchen when he walks in with a heavy expression. He tells her the truth that he's now the Dark Lord, and with that power he can finally unlock her cursed chain. Then Zagan sets Nephi free, saying that as a Dark Lord he doesn't need her. Suddenly, Nephi soon finds herself alone in a dark alley. She remembers the dinner she was cooking, the warmth of his home, but when she looks at the open chain around her neck, she remembers painfully Zagan's words and how he let her go. Later, Chastile finds Nephi and sees that the elf is still in shock. Chastile kneels beside her and gently asks if she's all right, but Nephi, her mind lost in despair, offers her life to the Templar. Even Chastile is frightened by Nephi's strange reaction. The scene draws the attention of bystanders and murmurs spread. Everyone knows Nephi has been living with a wizard, and now they assume Chastile is bullying her for that reason. The seamstress Manuela steps forward, standing between them and scolding Chastile for being heartless toward a helpless girl. Chastile bursts into tears as the misunderstanding grows worse. Even when Nephi explains that Chastile hasn't done anything wrong, the Templar can't stop crying. Later, the three women sit together in a nearby pub. Chastile apologizes for her reaction, and Manuela curiously asks how she knows Nephi. Chastile admits that it's because of her mission. Nephi quickly adds that Chastile isn't to blame, and the one who hurt Zagan was another Templar named Torres, who was traumatized after Nephi's tree attack. When their food arrives, Nephi realizes she has no money to pay. Manuela kindly offers to cover the meal but jokes that Chastile must pay for the drinks. Chastile is about to complain when Nephi suddenly bursts into tears, overwhelmed by memories. Neither Chastile nor Manuela expects it. Through her tears, Nephi cries out, wondering why Zagan threw her away like this. Manuela, acting like a big sister, gently comforts her until Nephi can finally explain her story. Chastile frowns and says Zagan sounds like he's been using Nephi, but Nephi immediately cuts her off with a cold, serious glare, saying Zagan would never do such a thing. Manuela asks if anything strange happened before he sent her away, and Nephi remembers Zagan mentioning that he had become the Dark Lord. Manuela explains that their city is ruled by the 13th Dark Lord, Lord Marchosius, but since his death, countless misfortunes have plagued the land. Chastile adds that many women have been kidnapped lately, and Manuela says the culprit was a wizard known as the Face Stealer, who had already been captured by the church. She then complains about the church's taxes and their so-called salvation offerings. Chastile can't find the words to defend herself, but Nephi gently tells her that it's not her fault. Chastile smiles through her tears, touched by Nephi's kindness, and now she understands why Zagan wanted to protect her so much. Their conversation returns to the Dark Lords, and Chastile explains that the Dark Lords are symbols of evil, the devils that the church has sworn to destroy. There are 12 holy swords, each meant to slay one of the 13 Dark Lords, and if a new 13th Lord has risen, the church will hunt them down. Nephi quietly realizes that this must be why Zagan set her free. Chastile then asks if Zagan is skilled in magic, and whether he would ever use human sacrifice to strengthen it. Nephi immediately shakes her head, saying that Zagan has never shown interest in weak people, and the only time he attacked others was when he despised their cruelty. Chastile nods in agreement, as she saw it herself, how Zagan refused to fight her simply because she was a woman, and despite his terrifying power, he was a gentleman. She adds that the first time she met him, he looked like a man silently crying for help but too proud to admit it. Nephi understands that perfectly, as while she dislikes the thought of someone else knowing Zagan so deeply, her concern for him outweighs her jealousy. She stands up determined to return to him, and she says that even if Zagan is strong, it doesn't mean he can't be hurt. Chastile agrees and vows to help as well, promising to uncover whoever tried to frame Zagan for the city's crimes. Manuela smiles warmly, happy to see everything fall into place, and tells Neffy to visit anytime she needs someone to talk to. When Neffy asks why she's being so kind, Manuela simply replies that it's because they're friends, and Chastille awkwardly adds that she wants to join that group as well. The girls share a rare moment of laughter, until the 3 Templars from Chastille's unit burst into the pub, shouting about an emergency. Before they can explain, dark shadows suddenly appear, swirling through the room under the name of Zagan. They strike fast, capturing Neffy and Chastille, while Manuela manages to escape by flying high into the air. Back at the castle, Zagan sits alone, his home painfully silent without Neffy's presence. Meanwhile, the 3 Templars from the pub lie trapped on the floor, ensnared by the very magic traps that he and Neffy created together. Zagan keeps telling himself that letting Neffy go was the right choice, but as he turns to leave, one of the blonde Templars grabs his leg, begging him to save Chastille. He explains that Chastille has been defending Zagan, even daring to fight the High Priest to prove his innocence. Zagan doesn't understand until Manuela bursts in, shouting that Neffy and Chastille have been kidnapped. He clenches his fists, torn between doing something and staying hidden. He knows that if he intervenes, the church will learn about his bond with Neffy, and she'll be branded a heretic. But before he can hesitate further, Manuela yells at him. She tells him Neffy truly wants to stay with him, and demands how he can be so heartless. Her words strike deeper than any blade, as after everything he told Neffy, she still wants to be with him. That realization clears his mind, and he admits she's right about magic users being selfish. But he admits that he is selfish too, as Neffy is his, and anyone who dares to touch her will pay with their life. With that, Zagan rises, his eyes burning with fury. Manuela joins him, along with the 3 Templars, ready to rescue Neffy and Chastille. When she asks if he knows who's behind the attack, Zagan lowers his gaze and says he can guess with a heavy heart. Elsewhere, deep inside a cave, Neffy awakens in chains beside Chastille. The curse on the shackles is strong, draining her energy and sealing her power. From the shadows, a familiar voice echoes, and Barbados steps into the light. Neffy stares at him in disbelief and demands to know why. Knowing that he was supposed to be Zagan's friend, Barbados laughs cruelly, saying that he never considered Zagan a friend. He tells her that Andres, the first wizard Zagan ended, was his own mentor. Barbados claims that everything Zagan owns now should have been his, from the wealth, the power, the knowledge. He admits that the kidnappings were his doing, as he let a lesser wizard act under Zagan's name to frame him. But the plan went wrong and everything spiraled out of control. Chastille snaps, calling him a monster. But Barbados smirks, saying sacrifices are necessary. He wants to prove to the 12 Dark Lords that he deserves a seat among them. Now with Neffy, the rare elf, he plans to use her as a sacrifice to open the forbidden portal. But Neffy glares at him and says Zagan has already been crowned the 13th Dark Lord. Barbados freezes in disbelief, and rage consumes him. He screams that Zagan has stolen everything from him, and drags Neffy toward the glowing magic circle. Neffy feels the pull of the curse and believes this may be her end. But when she remembers how only Zagan ever saw her as a person, and not a tool, something ignites inside her. She shouts that she belongs to Zagan, and no one else can touch her. Furious, Barbados raises his hand to strike her, when suddenly, the cave erupts in an explosion, and Zagan arrives. Barbados immediately realizes that his tricks have been discovered, and he demands to know when Zagan figured it out. Zagan answers coolly that it was simple. He reveals that it makes no sense that the face-stealer wizard somehow managed to step into his powerful barrier, knowing he's a weak turd who begged for mercy and died easily. So Zahan realizes that the only person who would dare cross his barrier was Barbados. But the real giveaway came when Barbados checked on him after hearing that he had been attacked by a Holy Templar, and it was obvious. But what truly enraged Zahan was that Barbados dared to harm Neffy, and that was something he could never forgive. Without hesitation, Zagan moves swiftly, attacking Barbados' hand and leg to paralyze him. He immediately breaks Neffy's chains and asks if she's alright. But Neffy turns the question back on him. For the first time, she speaks honestly, and she says she hated seeing him sad, and if he truly thought she was useless, she would have accepted leaving. But she couldn't bear the thought of his lonely face, and she didn't want to see Zagan alone. Zagan's heart aches, and he pulls Neffy into his arms, apologizing for abandoning her. But their tender moment is shattered as Barbados summons a swarm of massive magic circles for a counterattack. Still, Zagan remains calm, revealing that he had already corrupted Barbados' magic energy earlier. Barbados, furious, accuses him of stealing that trick from Andras. Zagan corrects him, saying that it was a technique he mastered before ending Andras. Back then, he could only draw magic circles with blood, and when Andras tried to use him as a sacrifice, Zagan had already drawn a hidden circle on his hand. And because Andras used the same spell, Zagan managed to steal his magic in a single instant. Driven by rage, Barbados conjures every magic circle he can remember, but Zagan effortlessly steals them all. He explains that his power comes not from luck, but from tireless effort. He studied endlessly, reading every book in the library until people began to avoid him. But only Barbados stayed, and he thought he was a friend, but Barbados was merely curious about the kind of person he truly was. Zagan answers that question proudly by showing off his mastery over Barbados' stolen magic. And as the newly crowned Dark Lord, Zagan declares his title, Zagan the Wizard Slayer. His words are followed by a massive wave of destruction from his upgraded magic circles. Barbados collapses, blood spilling from his mouth. He realizes that even if he became one of the Dark Lords, he could never surpass Zagan. Gasping for breath, he apologizes for his arrogance, even playing the friendship card in desperation. Zagan steps closer, and with his eyes cold, he says that Barbados is not his friend before slamming his magic-charged fist into him. But it only landed on the ground beside Barbados' face, traumatizing him. Barbados laughs wickedly as he stands tall, declaring that he was joking and refuses to take Barbados' life. Barbados calls him a fool for that. But Zagan says that he will break boundaries and not live by their wizarding rules anymore. Suddenly, the ground shakes violently. Zagan asks Barbados what he did, but Barbados says that this is not him. Zagan realizes the punch he delivered activated Barbados' magic, and Barbados reveals that he was trying to summon a real demon. Then, a massive demon begins to awaken, and everyone braces for the worst. As Zagan looks at it, he feels the immense aura it carries, and he realizes that he can't win despite his best efforts. But when the demon takes full form, it doesn't attack. Instead, it kneels before Zagan, recognizing the presence of its lord, surprising everyone. Zagan is confused about what's happening, but calmly orders it to return to its realm, and it surprisingly obeys him. As the demon fades, the cave begins to collapse, and Zagan drags everyone to escape. Outside, the three Templars wait at the cave's exit, overjoyed to see Chastile safe. Torres remarks that this might be the first time they've left wizards unharmed, and Zagan exhales deeply and lets them go. Manuela leans close, thanking Zagan for saving them. As for Barbados, he accepts his defeat and leaves, just as Zagan commanded. Finally, only Zagan and Neffy remain. Neffy speaks first and, with full conviction, says that she wants to stay with him no matter what happens. Zagan kneels before her, and he tells her he doesn't want to be called master or daddy, but he wants something more. Then, unable to hold back his emotions, he rises, grips her shoulders, and declares that she belongs to him forever, even after death. Neffy smiles warmly and accepts. She even holds up her old chain, saying that even though it once symbolized slavery, she wants him to put it on her, as it now represents the start of their bond. But when Neffy asks what their relationship is, Zagan folds to pressure, because even with all his power, he still doesn't know the right word for love. Days pass after that moment, and Chastile decides to return her holy sword. She feels she doesn't deserve to wield it anymore, knowing she wants to help Zagan, the church's enemy. The high priest accepts the sword and informs her that she will face punishment. But the real issue lies with the sword itself. The holy sword chooses its own master, and it feels wrong that one of its chosen bearers is now being punished for aiding a wizard. Out of respect for her service, the high priest promises to defend her and ensure her punishment isn't severe. However, another one of the strongest holy Templars, Raphael Hirondelle, is coming to visit their city. No one knows his purpose, but Chastile already fears that he might be the one assigned to deliver her judgment. Meanwhile, Zagan is buried in his library, searching for any information about the power of the Dark Lords and their connection to demons. But no matter how many books he reads, he finds nothing that answers his questions. Suddenly, Neffy walks in, trying to surprise him, but he already senses her presence. He lets Neffy do her thing, but due to the height difference, she fails to surprise him and gets flustered. She smiles and tells him she's worried about him overworking himself, and Zagan struggles to hold it together against this adorable creature. She reveals that she made him lunch using one of Manuela's new recipes. She reveals that Manuela taught her multiple recipes, and when they try them, they are in awe at how they taste. She adds that she made pudding, and explains that it is made using eggs and cream, which Zagan has no knowledge about. When Zagan looks at the pudding, he's confused about how to eat it. Neffy tells him to use his spoon, and when he does taste the first spoonful, he is amazed by how tasty it is and how much he doesn't know about flavors. Suddenly, a tremendous crash shakes the castle. His barrier shatters, and a massive dragon bursts through. It's Valifor. As she walks in with his heavy voice, he challenges Zagan, but Zagan tells him to stay put, as he wants to finish his pudding, but Valifor takes it as an insult and attacks. That angers Zagan, as it ruins his dessert. So he retaliates instantly, blasting Valifor across the room. When her helmet falls off, Neffy is surprised to see that it's not a monster at all, but a girl. Realizing that he could piss off the feminists watching the video, Zagan gags in embarrassment and quickly carries Valifor to a guest bedroom so she can rest. Then Valifor wakes up and immediately tries to attack Zagan again. But Zagan catches her with ease, telling her to thank Neffy, because if she were not here, he would have yeeted her head like basketball. Valifor asks why he spared her, and he simply says that it's because of Neffy. He then asks why she attacked, and she insists she must grow stronger, declaring that as a dragon, she will slay him, as he is the one known as the Wizard Slayer. Zagan, unable to neutralize her raw power, finds her determination oddly familiar, as it reminds him of his younger self. So, instead of punishing her, he pretends that helping Neffy for a week will serve as her punishment. That way, he can teach her right from wrong in a way she might actually understand, and if she still turns out bad, he figures it won't be his fault. Curious and cautious, Valifor suddenly asks if Zagan plans to eat her. He jolts horrified and assures her that while he may be a bad man, he's not that crazy. Confused, Neffy asks why anyone would eat a dragon. Zagan explains that dragon blood and flesh contain enormous magical energy, granting powerful regeneration and longevity, while their bones can cure almost any illness, and he finally understands why Valifor hides inside her heavy armor. He suddenly remembers how people used to feed him when he was starving, so Zagan offers her some food. Valifor feels insulted and is about to eat the food away when Zagan warns her that he will send her to meet Kobe Bryant if he wastes the food that Neffy cooked. And when she tastes how good it is, she finishes the food in no time. Zagan then leaves for the library, and Valifor calls him foolish for leaving her with Neffy, but he tells her to do whatever she likes, confident she can't possibly outmatch Neffy anyway. Zagan then watches them closely, and Valifor starts helping Neffy with laundry. Amazed by her cooking, Valifor says that Neffy is now her friend. As for Zagan, Valifor finds him strange after seeing how he hides his true power, yet treats her kindly. She then asks Neffy why she chooses to stay with someone like him. Nefi smiles softly and answers that while Zagan bought her, he never once treated her like a toy, and he accepted her and treated her like a normal person. Those words strike something deep in Valifor, something she's never experienced before. Days pass as Valifor settles into life with them, working hard alongside Nefi without a single complaint. One evening, while Zagan continues his fruitless search for the true Demon Lord's whereabouts, Valifor calls him to dinner. He joins her casually, but she warns him that he should watch his back, as one day she might attack him from behind. Zagan just smiles, reminded of Barbados, and he tells her she's free to try, but if she loses, her chores will double. At the dining table, Valifor shyly apologizes for her attack on the first day. Sensing that she's finally calming down, Zagan decides to bring her along when he explores the Dark Lord's castle. But Valifor suddenly gets angry, demanding to know why he trusts her so easily when she's a dragon. Zagan replies that he doesn't care if she's a dragon or anything else, as in his home, she's just a girl, and she's free to act like one. Those words stop her cold, as no one has ever treated her like that. Overwhelmed, Valifor begins to cry. Zagan awkwardly pats her head, telling her not to get tears in Nefi's food. She nods through her sobs and insists that from now on, he can be her friend as well. Later that night, Valifor falls asleep, still holding her spoon. When Zagan tries to take it away, she grips his finger instead, murmuring in her sleep about her father. Nefi watches the two of them quietly and smiles, saying that it looks like they just had a kid. Their faces flush bright red, and without a word, Zagan and Nefi reach out and hold each other's hands. From the day Valifor begins working at Zagan's castle, she keeps a journal, writing down everything she learns about cleaning, laundry, and cooking. But what concerns her most is Zagan and Nefi. She once saw Nefi quietly watching Zagan's sleeping face while talking to herself like she was planning to tell him something. And another time, she saw Nefi sitting on his lap while they studied together in the library. They separate awkwardly the moment she appeared. But whatever it is, Valifor feels warm being in this place. The next day, Zagan and Nefi bring her to Manuela's shop. The two buy Valifor a cute coat and she loves it. Then, as they walk through the market, Valifor holds Zagan and Nefi's hands, just like she's their daughter, and Zagan can't help but feel protective of her. Not far away, Chastille strolls through the market, thinking about all the equipment she returned to the church. She did so because she knows her wrongdoing for defending the Dark Lord. Still, she knows Zagan is a good person, and she doesn't want him separated from Nefi, as they would make a wonderful little family. Then, the real Zagan and Nefi appear right in front of her, with a little girl between them. Chastille is stunned, unable to believe that they already clapped and had a kid. Zagan quickly explains that his pickle hasn't gotten wet, and the child isn't theirs. He introduces Valifor and tells her that Chastille is their friend. But before the moment can settle, 3 Templars arrive and seize Chastille, saying the High Priest demands her presence. Valifor is ready to attack, but Zagan stops her, saying that the people in the market are Nefi's friends, and Valifor cannot cause a scene. Later, when Zagan arrives at the Dark Lord's castle, Valifor senses a familiar energy from inside, like a dragon that used to live inside. Zagan tells her to investigate and take anything that might be connected to dragons. The exploration begins. They find an inactive golem that once protected the castle, but since Mercosius's death, it has remained still. Then Valifor discovers a magic circle imbued with a dragon's power. Zagan pats her head, and Nefi does the same to her. Valifor then opens a secret door from the magic circle, but during it, Zagan notices Nefi blushing like she wants something, and realizes she wants a head pat as well. So Zagan pats her, and Nefi's ears twitch with excitement. Then the secret door opens, and they descend to a hidden dungeon. At the bottom lies a secret library. Zagan instructs Nefi and Valifor to search for books about the Demon Lord or the demons. As they search, Valifor, having watched Zagan and Nefi's closeness, asks how he can know what Nefi wants earlier. Zagan replies that he can already guess it, and Nefi gives him hints. Valifor wishes to be like that someday, and Zagan understands what she means and tells her she has plenty of time. Moments later, she spots a book about the 12 holy swords. Zagan is thrilled and quickly reads it. He studies the runes and sees that the mark of the Holy Sword and the Dark Lord's mark look strikingly similar. He knows that if he can uncover their history, he may learn the truth about the Demon Lord. Meanwhile, at the church, the famous Templar Raphael arrives. Chastille is called to greet him. Raphael wastes no time on pleasantries, and he immediately asks how many witches or wizards she has slain. Believing he intends to execute her, Chastille cautiously answers that she never keeps count. Raphael laughs loudly, impressed by her boldness as it's been ages since anyone spoke to him so directly. But his tone quickly hardens, telling her to keep that pride for the afterlife. Her 3 knights try to protect her, but before anything happens, the High Priest Clavwell intervenes, scolding Raphael for his harsh words. But Raphael insists he has no business with the priest, unless it concerns Chastille's holy sword. He says that the sword chooses its owner, and cannot be used by anyone else while the owner lives, so Raphael says that he should cut her head. He adds that Clavwell has no right to keep it, and he should return it to Chastille. However, Chastille believes that using the holy sword for her own needs would make her no different from those heartless magic users. Raphael is taken aback by her pride and stubbornness, but still respects her resolve. In the end, Clavwell returns the sword to her, entrusting her with her own judgment and decisions. But Chastille quietly wonders why Raphael is helping her at all. That night, after his defeat, Barbados takes Zagan to a pub for drinks as the agreement to let him live. He wants to know if Zagan truly has a child or if he kidnapped one, and who this girl really is. Zagan answers that she's someone both of them know. Puzzled, Barbados guesses it might be Valifor, but dismisses it. He laughs, realizing Zagan has actually adopted a child. Their conversation shifts to Raphael the Great, who has just arrived in the city, and Barbados warns him that Raphael is targeting Zagan's head. Rumor has it he once ate a dragon's flesh, which granted him immense power. Zagan's expression hardens, as Valifor once said her father was slain by a Templar, and this could be the same man. And just as Barbados grows drunk, the tavern door opens. Raphael walks in and stands behind them with full bloodlust. Raphael gives them a deadly smile, which causes the bartender to collapse, and Barbados is about to attack the old man. But Zabagan stops him, saying that he doesn't sense any malicious intent from Raphael. So Zabagan and Raphael take a seat in the corner. Raphael says he came to meet the wizard who saved Chastile, his comrade. Zagan asks if Raphael is fine with letting two wizards walk freely before him, and Raphael replies that he only slays flames before they become wildfires. He then asks if Chastile was ever a worthy opponent to Zagan, and Zagan admits that she gave him more challenge than anyone ever could. Hearing that Raphael decides to slay her, and he mentions that Chastile was supposed to hunt Zagan, but her position as a Templar is now gone, because she let him go, which made her a threat to the church. Zagan realizes Raphael has come to confirm whether his connection with Chastile is real, so he can use it against her later. He warns Raphael not to do anything foolish, saying Chastile is adored by the townspeople, and this city belongs to him. Raphael simply laughs and says Zagan is just as he expected before leaving. Zagan orders Barbados to follow Chastile using his shadow powers, and in return, Barbados can borrow any book he wants to study. When Zagan returns home, Nephi is waiting for him. While Valifor is asleep on her lap, Nephi says it was Valifor's idea, and the girl worked hard today, moving all the books from the Dark Castle to their library. Nephi mentions that she knows how Valifor also told him she wants to spend her life with him, but is a bit sad that she couldn't do the same. Zagan assures her that she will be with him as well, and that makes Nephi happy to know that he promised that they will all stay together. In that perfect moment, Zagan leans closer, his hand brushing Nephi's face, and everything feels right for a kiss, but Barbados suddenly emerges from the shadows. Furious, Zagan nearly curses him for interrupting, unless the report is important. Barbados says it's urgent, and he carries in Chastile's unconscious body, saying that she's been poisoned. Zagan and Nephi rush to her side, which wakes Valifor. When she spots the holy sword, anger floods her. She activates her dragon arm, ready to attack any Templar in sight, but Zagan stops her. He tells her that Chastile is a friend, and not the one who took her father's life, so ending her would be meaningless, and if Valifor seeks revenge, she must strike the right person. He says that murder isn't the best way, while torture is far more fitting, and he promises to teach her how. Nephi and Barbados exchange uneasy looks at his words. Later, Chastile wakes in Nephi's bed, where Zagan is waiting on her, reading a book. He tells her she was poisoned, and asks what she remembers. Chastile recalls receiving a letter from a man in a knight's armor who hid his face. He said he supported peace between wizards and the church, but if Chastile followed his instructions, she would be defying Clavwell. Still, the man didn't pressure her to join him immediately. He mentioned one name, Orobus, and told her to remember it for her safety. When she returned home, she found tea already prepared. After drinking it, she collapsed from the poison, but it was then that Barbados showed up. Zagan asks if she suspects anyone, and Chastile thinks of Raphael. But Zagan disagrees, saying Raphael would have finished it with a sword, not poison. As he stands to leave, Chastile asks him to stay. Zagan tells her to ask Nephi instead, implying he shouldn't. She understands the meaning behind it and apologizes. Yet he doesn't want to wake Nephi, so he turns his chair to face the door, keeping watch. Chastile quietly understands her place, as she doesn't want to ruin what Zagan and Nephi have, and she only wants to see them happy. The next morning, Chastile receives a maid uniform identical to Nephi's. Zagan allows her to stay, but says that doesn't mean she can relax as a guest, and Chastile complains that she's never done housework before. When she meets Valifor, the girl gives her attitude, warning her not to get too comfortable around Zagan and Nephi. Valifor even calls her the side hoe, before running off. Zagan explains that Valifor despises Templars for taking her father's life, so Chastile must understand her bitterness. But then Chastile screams 3 times within the hour to Valifor, especially when Valifor teases her with a frog, her little act of revenge without using magic. Days pass as Chastile adjusts to life in the castle, and Valifor records everything in her journal. She admits that while she likes Chastile's name, she doesn't like her as a person, and for a professional Templar, Chastile seems weak, almost pitiful in Valifor's eyes. Just then, Zagan enters the room, asking to talk privately, while Nephi and Chastile take a warm bath together. Chastile comments that the tub is quite spacious, and Nephi replies that Zagan built it himself so it could fit more than one person. Chastile's mind wanders to steamy thoughts, and Nephi blushes when she realizes what Chastile is imagining. Meanwhile, Zagan speaks with Valifor, reminding her not to prank Chastile during or before meals. He also tells her she is free to stay with him and Nephi forever, or to leave if she wishes, and that it's entirely her choice. That night, Valifor dreams of her late father. She relives the moment she saw someone devouring his flesh, and the memory reignites her rage, and by the time dawn comes, Valifor is gone from her bed, sending Nephi and Zagan into a panic. Before leaving, Valifor writes in her journal, saying she feels happy when Zagan asks her to stay in the castle. She learns that in this place there are only warm feeling. She enjoys the sweet and gentle attention that Zagan and Nephi give her, but if she chooses to stay, her revenge for her father's death will be forgotten, and she still doesn't want that. Valifor leaves, hoping that Zagan and Nephi will understand her and wait for her. Valifor travels to the Dark Lord's castle, seeking something useful for her revenge, but Raphael stops her before she can enter. Valifor senses the presence of a dragon within him. Then she remembers that Raphael is the one who slew her father and ate his flesh that day. Filled with rage, Valifor leaps to attack Raphael, and the old man is ready to cut her down. But Zagan arrives just in time to stop Raphael's strike. He tells Valifor she can do whatever she likes, but not at night, and Zagan luckily has Barbados, who can travel through shadows, allowing him to arrive in time. Valifor cannot understand why Zagan still wants to help her, but he simply says that he understands, and there is nothing to worry about. Valifor apologizes like a lost child, and Raphael is surprised to see a wizard helping a stranger, but Zagan corrects him that Valifor is his daughter. As a man, Zagan stands tall, ready to fight Raphael, while Raphael activates his sword, and a holy flame bursts from it, cracking Zagan's magic circle. He says that his blade has slain one Dark Lord before, and he believes he can do it again. Valifor asks why Zagan must be this serious, and he replies that it is to teach her how to take proper revenge by making the opponent use all their energy until they are desperate. Then, with his newly upgraded magic circle, Zagan attacks Raphael, and the holy flame cannot break through it. Zagan has learned from his past battle with Chastille, so he created a new magic circle that regenerates by absorbing all the surrounding energy, making it unbreakable. Zagan endures 3 attacks from Raphael's holy flame before it vanishes, and now that the flame is gone, Zagan unleashes his other magic against Raphael, sending him flying. Zagan initially believes that he has already won, but then Raphael stands, proving he's not the average knight. Back at the castle, Chastille walks to the throne hall, where Nefi waits beside the Barbados portal. Chastille wants to help, but her ideology holds her back, as she was once a Templar, yet now she wields her holy sword to aid a wizard again. She feels selfish, and Nefi notices her troubled expression and asks if she's alright. Then she pulls Chastille into a warm embrace, and that's when Chastille breaks down. Chastille doesn't know why she keeps fighting alongside a wizard when she's supposed to serve the church, but she knows she wants to stand with Zagan. When her tears are spent, Nefi gently caresses Chastille's cheek with a smile, saying she's glad that others understand Zagan. When Chastille regains her resolve, she leaps into the portal, ready to fight for what she believes in. Back on the battlefield, Zagan is surprised that Raphael can still move. Then he sees the old man's wounds regenerating, and he realizes Raphael has consumed dragon flesh. Zagan tells Valifor to think of a suitable punishment for him, but Raphael doesn't understand why Valifor hates him, as they have never met. Then she mentions her father's name, Orobus, the wise dragon, and both Zagan and Barbados recognize the name immediately. Valifor explains that her father always helped those in need, and one day, a group of Templars came asking for his aid. He left without hesitation and didn't return for a week. When Valifor finally searched for him, she found her father lying dead, a holy sword in his neck, and Raphael devouring his flesh. Valifor has hated humans ever since, though her father was a kind and selfless being. When Raphael learns that Valifor is Aratus's daughter, he attacks, seizing Zagan. Valifor retaliates, forming an explosive magic circle and firing it at Raphael. The blast is enormous, but Chastille appears just in time to stop it and block Raphael's sword. Zagan demands to know Raphael's true purpose, especially after sensing his bloodlust vanish upon hearing Orobus's name. Chastille quickly stops Zagan, and she recalls the mysterious figure who once spoke to her in secret and mentioned Orobus, and she believes that person was Raphael. They demand Raphael explain himself, but before anyone can answer, a giant golem bursts from the cave, absorbing energy from its surroundings. Valifor recognizes it as the same golem that appeared at the castle gates, and the shield must have broken from the shockwave of Zagan's magic and the holy flame. Zagan tries to subdue the golem as he did with the shadow demon before, but it doesn't work. The creature opens its mouth and releases a massive beam of energy. Everyone dives away, except Valifor, frozen in place. In her final moment, Raphael saves her, losing his entire left arm in the process. Zagan, furious that his daughter nearly died, unleashes his full power and destroys the golem. When he reaches Valifor, he sees how gravely injured Raphael is and realizes that he doesn't have much time. He asks Raphael why he saved Valifor, and Raphael says that it is his duty to do so. Zagan can see that Raphael wants to redeem himself, so he demands he explain before he dies. Raphael finally explains himself that it is all a misunderstanding for Valifor, and that he could never have taken her father's life, but Valifor refuses to believe him, because she saw it with her own eyes, and Raphael was there. So Raphael asks her in return if her father was weak enough that he could be slain by a mere human. He revealed that at that time, Raphael did ask Aratus for help to defeat a powerful enemy, the legendary demon. Valifor still doesn't believe it, and Raphael understands why. Because everyone thinks demons are nothing more than history. But he says that it's true, and that those demons have returned in this era. Zagan adds that he has seen one himself, the shadow demon in the cave, and that's why he's been searching for a way to deal with them. Valifor feels sad to know that his father was defeated, but Raphael tells her to keep her chin up, as Orobus was not defeated, but he won the battle by sacrificing himself, and says that Valifor should not resent his death, but she should be proud knowing that her father fought for the safety of the people, and for her. But Raphael accepts that if taking his life will ease her pain, he will accept it, but he asks that she must understand that if magic users in the church remain divided, humanity cannot be safe from the demons, and that is why Aratus told Raphael to live on. Without thinking, Raphael drank Aratus's blood, inheriting his power, but he says that his fight is nearly over, and the next generation like Zagan and Chastille must rise. That is why he formed the Peace faction to end the endless feud between mages and the church. Barbados scoffs, saying that a man who has ended hundreds of witches and wizards has no right to speak of peace, and Raphael accepts those words, but that is why he needs Chastille to be the face of the reconciliation between church and wizards. As they speak, the golem still moves. Raphael says it isn't made from magic alone and that the golem's body is built from a demon's flesh, the Chimera. He recognizes it as the corpse that the late Marchosius brought here and reawakened with magic. Zagan prepares to unleash his newly upgraded spell, and Chastile rises to her feet, ready to open the way for him. With her holy flame, she swings her sword straight through the golem's core and Zagan strikes. When the body shatters, the remaining magic inside animates the fragments and launches them back toward Zagan. Chastile leaps forward, slicing the flying debris into harmless pebbles. Finally, Zagan activates his new magic circle, delivering a punch that drains the golem's energy and turns it into a massive explosion. Zagan admits it still needs some fine-tuning. Chastile is astonished by his ingenuity, and Zagan praises her strength in return, as having a powerful ally is not a bad thing. Then Valefor calls out to them as Raphael's condition is worsening. Zagan tries to heal him, but can't make any promises, as Raphael's regeneration is failing. Before he fades, Raphael tells Chastile that she is truly the new hope, and that his soldiers will follow her. Chastile asks why Raphael used Erebus's name, and he reveals that Erebus is the true founder of the Peace faction, and the reason Raphael still lives. Skeptical Zagan asks him why Raphael hunted witches and wizards, if that's true. Raphael answers that he never intended to, as he only tried to talk, even smiled at them, but they attacked him first, so he swung his sword out of self-defense. That answer frustrates Zagan, who argues that Raphael's expression hardly looks friendly, but Barbados points out that Zagan isn't much different himself. Raphael tells Chastile to return to the church and let him handle those who want her dead. Before he departs, Valefor asks what he truly thought of her father. Raphael answers that Erebus was a mighty dragon, and that fighting beside him was the most extraordinary experience of his life. After Raphael leaves the castle, Zagan asks Valefor if this is what she wanted, but she doesn't know, as slaying Raphael no longer feels right. Zagan smiles, saying her answer is enough, and then he takes Valefor back home, where she belongs. Elsewhere, Clavwell meets with his 3 comrades, and he is still searching for Chastile. He wants her life for himself, not for anyone else, especially not for Zagan the wizard, and anyone who sides with wizards must be punished. But he knows that if he loses Chastile, the holy sword will lose its master, and finding another will be difficult, for anyone unworthy will die by the sword's divine will. As Clavwell broods, Raphael enters the room, but seeing the blood on Raphael gives Clavwell an excuse to finish him. As to him, working with Zagan is a sin. Clavwell coats his hand in poison, pretending he will heal Raphael's wound, but with one swift move, Raphael cuts his hand cleanly. Clavwell screams and collapses, but Raphael silences him with his foot, declaring that no one will disrupt the peace of the future. So Clavwell must go and chill with Michael Jackson. The next morning, news of Clavwell's death spreads. Chastile already suspects he was the one who poisoned her, and knowing how strict Clavwell was, she decides to return to the church to restore order. She then confronts Valefor, and is happy that they finally make amends, which makes Chastile cry. Now that Zagan and the others have accepted her, Chastile promises to create a world where witches, wizards, and humans can coexist. She is about to depart when Raphael praises her. Shocked, she realizes he's still alive and now works as Zagan's butler. Raphael explains that he originally came to the castle to receive Valefor's judgment, but she asked him to work with Zagan instead, so he could help her too, and as a gift, Valefor crafts him a new armored arm to replace his severed one. Seeing how oddly cheerful this family is makes Chastile realize she isn't truly part of it, but Zagan tells her the door will always be open for her. When they send her off, Zagan asks Barbados to follow her for a while to ensure she can manage. Seeing him show such concern for Chastile makes Nephi a little jealous. She grabs his arm for attention, and Zagan understands that she's expecting something. So, not wanting to disappoint, he pulls her into a hug, rizzes her up, and apologizes for leaving her the night before. Another day begins, and Valefor writes in her journal about her new beginning. She writes about the time when Zagan and Nephi welcomed her as part of their family, and about Raphael and Chastile, who saved her with kindness she never thought she'd receive. Valefor wishes to repay them little by becoming stronger. On the last pages, she recounts stories of the family's new members. Raphael, the former Templar she once suspected of slaying her father, but who turns out to be a good man who deeply respects him. He's also an excellent cook, especially skilled at making sweets, though he always ruins the moment whenever she wants to see Zagan and Nephi together. Like when Raphael makes macarons, Nephi is about to feed Zagan herself, and Valefor eagerly watches, but Raphael always finds a way to cover her eyes or distract her, and he insists it's too soon for her to see such things. Today Chastile is coming for a sleepover, so Nephi takes her to the market for groceries. Everyone in the city smiles at them warmly, and before heading home, Nephi stops by Manuela's shop to thank her, gifting her a box of macarons as gratitude for all her help. Manuela is delighted and in return asks Nephi to try on her new dresses. Zagan wants to object, but knows he can't win against Manuela, so he retreats. There he notices a phonograph on the counter. Manuela explains that some kids from the alley found it, but no one wanted it, so they left it with her. The story reminds Zagan of his own past when he lived on the streets, digging through piles of junk to find anything worth selling. Moved by that memory, he buys the phonograph with a bag full of silver coins. Manuela insists it's too much, but Zagan tells her to use the money however she likes. Back home, Chastile arrives while everyone is still at the market, so she ends up chatting with Barbados. When the others return, Zagan asks her how work has been. Chastile sighs, saying she's exhausted, as all of Clavwell's duties have been dumped on her. Then Zagan turns to Barbados, reminding him he was never invited, and Valefor adds that they don't have extra food for him. Annoyed, Barbados grumbles, but Zagan knocks him on the head, saying no one is allowed to bully his daughter. To change the mood, Nephi says she'll prepare dinner. Chastille insists on helping, claiming she can handle simple dishes. But before she can even start, chaos unfolds. Her loud scream echoes from the kitchen, reaching the library where Zagan is tinkering with the phonograph. Barbados walks in, complaining that Chastille is hopeless, that she would even burn the boiling water. Back in the kitchen, Chastille is trying to make soup. She thinks it tastes fine, but when Neffy tries it, she realizes Chastille's taste buds must be chopped. To save dinner, Neffy gently pulls Chastille aside, telling her to rest as a guest while promising the soup will be served for breakfast instead. When dinner is ready, everyone gathers in the dining room. Zagan brings out the phonograph and starts it. The machine hums to life smoothly, filling the room with music that perfectly matches the warm atmosphere. Raphael mentions that he once danced to music like this, and Villefort asks him what dancing is. He explains that it's when a man and a woman hold hands and move together with the rhythm. As dinner begins, Barbados has already been drinking. He boasts that Chastille could never cook like Neffy, and teases her about sleeping with a plushie. Flustered, Chastille accuses him of being a stalker, but Zagan cuts in, saying Barbados tends to run his mouth when he's drunk, and Neffy adds that Barbados was actually the one who found her when Chastille was poisoned. Chastille apologizes and thanks him, but she's still embarrassed and ends up crying, ruining the mood as the phonograph's soft tune continues in the background. Zagan tells Barbados to apologize, but he refuses and instead drinks the soup. At first, he praises it, but then collapses unconscious moments later. Neffy stares in disbelief, wondering how that soup ever made it to the table. Villefort chuckles and admits it was her idea to prank Barbados. Later that night, after everyone has gone to bed, Zagan is still working on the phonograph. Neffy sits beside him, saying she enjoyed tonight's dinner, then asks why he bought the phonograph. Zagan replies that he wanted her to enjoy the music, and Neffy smiles softly, thanking him, happy to see him looking more content than before. For Zagan, it's because he finally has everything he once lacked, like a lively home, good food, and people he loves. He remembers sleeping on the streets, surviving on scraps, and the kindness of strangers. As the music plays one last time that night, Zagan asks Neffy to dance. Villefort wakes up just in time to see them, and Raphael joins in, realizing neither of them knows how to dance. With an amused sigh, he decides to teach them, and the scene ends in awkward laughter. The next day, Zagan places the phonograph in the alley where he once lived. Its cheerful music echoes through the streets as the children dance, and everyone celebrates the gift with joy. As the sun sets, Zagan and Neffy dance together under the glowing sky, wishing that this happiness would last forever. Comment down below, Night Raid, if you watch till the end, subscribe so you don't miss the next video.